Hello, it's Leigh here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to take you through the making of a circle journal similar to the one that you can see on the screen now. So this is going to be a fairy themed one. I'm using watercolor paper from a watercolor pad. It's only a cheap one from Kmart, and I'm cutting circles out to make my pages. So these circles are 12 centimeters in diameter. That's 4 3/4 inches, and my covers will be slightly bigger, so 12.8 centimeters or 5 inches, so that the pages are hidden within the cover. So what I'm doing to strengthen the pages up is I'm using matte medium, so gel matte medium, and I'm gluing 2 pieces together, so 2 circles for each page. And I'll glue the whole 12 of them in pairs, so I'll end up with 6 pages. And I'm just checking to make sure that the edges match up nice and neatly, and I'm just going to glue the whole lot of them together and pop them aside to dry. Now, if you want to have a look at a flip through of the other little book that I just showed you, up in the right hand corner of this video there's an I button. If you click on that, there's a link to that video. It's only a little short video, about 6 minutes long. Now I've got my 6 pages glued together, so it's time to work on the covers. So they just pop off to the side to dry for a little while. And here's the 2 circles that I cut for my covers. So what I used was, it's a suspension file, like, it's in like a little case thing. And they were hanging like a portable one, so I pulled it to pieces rather than just throw it away because it was getting tatty. And I'm using this cardboard in all sorts of projects, so it's been really handy to have. It has got a shiny surface though, so it's you just got to be careful what I use it for. So I'm just showing you the measurements there. So I'm using Mod Podge to glue some tissue onto each one of these covers, and I'm doing that because I want to create some texture, and I'll be putting inks and all sorts of things on top of that tissue when it dries to create what I hope will be a beautiful cover for the journal. So heaps of Mod Podge on there. I want it to be really, really wet. So once I cover it in Mod Podge, I then get my tissue, and instead of just laying it flat, I'm laying it down and causing those creases to occur. That's going to be all the texture on my cover. So I'll tear the excess tissue off that and use that to cover the back one with. I'm sealing this with a bit of Mod Podge. Just want to make sure that this tissue doesn't fall to pieces at any stage, because lots of inks and watery products are going to be used on top of it, so protecting it by adding the Mod Podge to the outside. So here I am to just tear off the excess and use that to cover the other circle. Now it's just doing exactly the same with the second one. So those measurements that I gave you for my circles, that you can make your circles any size you like. I'm not sure why I picked that measurement, but I couldn't tell you why. It just seemed like a nice size, I thought, to handle. It's not too big and it's not too small. Just putting the Mod Podge over everything so it seals it in nicely, making a couple of corrections. Some places there was not enough glue on the cardboard, so just fixing up those things. And then I'll put that aside and I'll start thinking about ink colours and other products that I will be putting onto the covers. So I've cut another 2 circles and I'm going to glue it onto the back of these ones so that the cover is nice and strong. So I'm just ripping off the excess tissue. And then I'm going to just slice a little bit off one side where I'll put my hinges. I found the circle book doesn't open and close like smoothly if it's left as a complete circle, so it needs to have a little bit trimmed off. Or this is the way I do it. Other people before me have obviously done it different ways, but this is what works for me. So I just slice off about 1/4 of an inch. I do that to both covers, and I also do that to the pages. So I'll eventually be putting eyelets into these covers as my place for the hinges. So instead of hinging the book in the traditional way, what I'm doing is putting 3 eyelets, and I'm just going to tie it together with sari silk or something like that, because I like the way that worked with the other one. So it was nice and soft, and the pages opened and shut and turned easily. So I'm just pinning those together, all the pages, that's the whole 6, and using the piece that I cut off the covers as my guide for how much I need to cut off the pages. I'm just using my craft knife to slice that little sliver off. So I think I forgot to turn the camera on when I was inking up the other circles. So I've got a couple of little ones here that I'll just show you how I did the colour on them. And it was through multiple layers of ink. So I've got a colour, it's a mica stain. This one, it's called Decayed. And this one is Gathered Twigs, so that's Distress Oxide Spray. Green Cracked Pistachio, Walnut Stain, and a bit of Fired Brick. So I'm going to put some of this red on first, and I'm just going to rub it over because all those ridges in that tissue is going to catch the colour. I'm not sure whether I'll use all the colours on that I've got here on them, but I just like the idea of a little bit of red showing through. It's a bit not stuck down properly, that bit. That's alright. They'll end up with so much stuff on top of it that it'll end up stuck down. Okay, so that'll do for the red. So this is Gathered Twigs. Just going to drop a little bit on each one. So what I'm going to do is just like add a few drops of colour here and there, and then I'm going to spray some water on. So I'm going to use a bit of this mica spray. I love the reaction you get when your colours start mixing together. Oops. Dolby hair stuck there, I think. So this colour, when it dries, it's got a sort of a green tinge to it. It's really quite nice. Alright, so I'm going to wet them. I'm just going to use a light spray to begin with. And I'm just going to let the ink do its own thing. And see what happens. I didn't put red on the other ones, so they're going to be a bit different to the covers. This is what the covers look like, but they've had lots of other things put on top. Oops. So you can see what that's looking like at the moment. The next thing I want to put in is some of this green speckled cracked pistachio. So I'm going to put it on the block and add some water to the block, and then probably just drizzle it on with a brush, maybe even drop it. I might drop it to see what it turns out like. Add a bit more. A little bit more on this. Sort of faded away a bit. I wanted it a bit greener than it is. So I'm thinking I might get some forest moss onto there. And this one is just a distress spray stain, but it's a dark green. It's a lovely colour actually, one of my favourites. Because the surface is wet, like you can see what the ink is doing. It's finding its own way among the around the surface here and around the lumps and bumps, little valleys that have been created by the tissue paper. Happy with the way they're looking so far, because they're going to look completely different when they dry. But anyway, I thought I'd just show you how I came up with the base of this, like the surface and the original ink that was down there before I started adding any of the gold and other things in. So I'm just going to pop these off to the side. Right, so this is what my covers look like. Unfortunately, as I explained, I forgot to turn the camera on, but it's lots of inks on there, similar to what I did with those little ones. And now I'm just going around the edge of them with black soot. I've got a re-inker here. This is speckled egg, and I thought I'd just drizzle some of that on. And then I realised when I was doing this one, you could sort of make it look a little bit like some sort of Islamic writing, so I had a little bit of a doodling session on that, and then dried it off. So now I'm going to ink the pages. So I don't want them to be too dark, but a couple of them do end up being darker than I wanted them to be. So that colour there is tea stain. So I'm now putting a little bit around the edge, and I'll just go through all of the pages until I get them looking the way I want. So that's Vintage Photo re-inker. So straight into the Vintage Photo with this one. So this one turns out much darker than I wanted it. I'm just using the excess to go around the edge of the. So there's going to be images of fairies and flowers and things put over the top of this. So most of it's going to end up covered up anyway. But you know it's there. So I just keep going through until I've done them all. Now what I'm doing here is that ink from the re-inkers, I think because it's so concentrated, it hadn't actually dried. So I just used my pages to blot some of it up, and it made some really interesting marks on the pages. Not that you'll see them once they're covered over with all the images, but yeah, they'll look nice. Anyway, what you can see, I think it's going to look really nice. I'm using weathered wood distress ink now to go around the edge of all the pages, and then I've got spun sugar, I think it is. It's another distress ink, and just adding little touches of pink in here and there. Not much, just a little bit around the edges. So the next thing I want to do is just ink around the edge of these inner pages. I had done them in, I think it was Faded Jeans, but I think I want them, well, I don't think, I know that I want them to be darker. So I've got Walnut Stain, and I'm just going to go around the edge. Just want them to have a little bit more dynamic appearance than what the blue was giving. So I think that looks more striking. So I'm just going to do that to all of these. Alright, so I'm happy with the way they look now. What I would like to do is to make some darker, marks on this. So I'm going to just drop some. No, I don't think that's going to work. Okay, that's not going to work because I used gilding paste on this, so I reckon that's going to have sealed the top, the surface, so nothing else is going to go on in there, get into the paper. Maybe an ink, I'll get a permanent ink. So I'll give this a try. It's called Ganache. It's by Stays On, and it is permanent. So yeah, that's better. You can see how that's darkening it up a little bit, but you can still see the gold in the background. So you can see the difference between the two. And I'll just do half of this, and I think it looks, definitely has improved it. Okay, so that's an archival ink. It's not going to come off at all. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry thoroughly. So this is the original one that I did, and that surface is covered in Pebeo paint, which is like an oil-based paint that it's got a really strong smell, but it's a bit like nail polish. I only used it to make that circly spiral thing on the back there. But on this one I'm not going to use that, but I thought I might, toying with the idea of using like a glaze. So I've got the glaze that I used when I made my art tiles ages ago, and I believe that's what I'll use on top, and that'll give it a nice glassy look similar to what this has. As you can see, I'm going to use the same closing, like the same hinging, so it's just going to be sari silk or something. It won't have this on it here because that was a specific design, so I was trying to make this look like a dream catcher. I'll put a dangly thing on it like this. There'll be one eyelet in the front and one in the back, which will be the closure, because I'll put something to tie it closed on there. So I'm just going to let all this dry, and then I'll crack on with it. Now, I found with my previous book it was easier to get the holes put in early rather than later, and so I've fixed these all together with a couple of clips and just eyeballed where I want my three hinges to be, and I'm just going to use my crocodile because it'll go through all that quite easily. So I'm going to use that to punch my holes. This is the hardest bit, is trying to see. It was a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, it's through. Get the next one done. Because I'm using like sari silk type of or a fabric or something like that to bind, do my binding, it's not going to matter too much. It's, you know, it's quite forgiving, so if they don't quite line up, it doesn't matter as much, you know, it's not going to affect the way the book operates. So that second one was in a bit further than it was meant to be. Anyway, I'm going to stand up. There we go. 3 holes. So they're a little bit out of alignment, but it doesn't matter because, as I say, the fabric is going to make it more forgiving. And so these ones didn't line up properly either, but you've got all that wiggle room, so it doesn't affect the way the book opens and shuts. Now all I need to do is put some eyelets in all them, so I'll do that next. And apart from the ones on the covers, I'm not really worrying too much about the colour of the eyelets. I've just got to find 6 that are the same colour, and then it doesn't matter about the ones inside. Or maybe I won't put eyelets in on the inside, I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't ever be tempted to buy cheap eyelets because they're just a waste of money. They don't work properly. They don't open the way they're meant to. They just break. So I'm just going to put my eyelets in. I need to put the ones in the bottom too for the closure. It's just, I think I'll just do the holes for them. It's just easier because of any, you know, like if you're putting other things on top and it gets really thick and, that one didn't, I mustn't have had it in the right place. That one's stuffed. Sometimes if you don't line it up properly, that's what happens. It's better. So you can see how crooked they are, but it won't matter. And on the back, put the 3. I found too, not squeezing as hard makes for a better eyelet. I used to really squeeze hard on them, and it was wrapping the eyelets, even the good ones. I was trying to kill them instead of open them out. Okay, so that's my covers. Yeah, I just want to do the hole for the closure. I'm just going to line them up again. So with the closure I want it to be in line with that hole in the middle, pretty much. Doesn't matter if it's off a little bit. Yeah, it's too far in. There we go. Do the eyelets there. Wow, that's off by a mile. How did I manage to do that? Okay. It's going to have to be 2 at the bottom because I've made them so crooked. Wow. I should probably wear my glasses when I do this sort of stuff. And it's really hard to see when it's under there, but I'm not making excuses, so I'll put another one there. Just going to mark it to make sure I get it in the right place this time. Okay, that's better. Sort of line them up a bit better. Makes it look like it's meant to be. Okay, so that's the cover pretty much finished. But apart from, I'm going to put something on the front cover because this is going to be a fairy book. So it'll be something fairy like that will go on there, and I'm going to have a fairy on each page. So I have a little book that I've got, and it's called Flower Fairies of the Trees. So I'm hoping I'll get enough images out of here to put in my journal. That's beautiful, isn't it? To put in my journal. But the disappointing thing about this book, when I ordered it, it didn't have the size on the listing, and it looked like it was a much bigger book. And then the images are beautiful, but this is a problem. So you've got one on either side of the paper, and it's pretty much like that all the way through. So that's, you have to decide which one you want. So you're losing half the images, which is, never mind. Some of them it's obvious which one I'm going to choose. Obvious to me, I mean, but yeah, so never mind. I've ordered another one, and I'm hoping that, well, I know it's bigger because the listing had the sizes on it. It's more like a, you know, a 6x9 sort of size standard book. It's got 192 pages. That ended up costing me nearly $20, and I would never have bought it had I known how small the book was. I mean, it was beautiful and all the rest of it, but it is not what I thought it was going to be. Anyway, they don't take refunds, so I'm stuck with it now. So even these little monochrome images are nice. So that's what I've got to do now, is to cut my fairies out and get them ready to glue into the pages. So they'll be going on these pages here, and the fairy that goes on there, it'll be the colours that will help me decide where they're going to go. So I need to start cutting out fairies. I'll leave it at this for now, so tune in for part 2 when I'll decorate the pages. So I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a go at making one of these books. And I'll say hooroo from Australia. Bye.